Hello and welcome to my 5 simple steps for installing a PCIe Flashmax 2 card in a Windows 2012 server. So what I'm going to do is remotely connect to the 2012 server. Here we have a copy of Windows 2012 server. The next thing I need to do is check that the card is actually being seen by the server itself, and I can do that in a number of ways. The first one is to go to the desktop and actually click on this button here and go to Device Manager. And what Device Manager will do is list out all the physical devices that are on the machine. And here we have a card that's been installed in the server. It's been identified as a PCIe Flash memory card. And what we need to do then is install the drivers. The next step is to go to a directory that has the drivers, and I've copied them onto an area called Downloads. And I'm going to install this, and it must be done normally as administrator. Properties to actually install this, so we're just going to hit install, and it's going to just run and install the driver package. So here we go, and it's going to stick the drivers in a C program files virident, and again this can be changed, so we'll do that, and we're literally just going to hit install, and that's going to install the relevant drivers. If we look over here on the left, you can see now that it's automatically picked up the card and actually put the card inside the hardware configuration of the box, and the system is ready to go. And it says here completed, and the drivers have been successful. This stage, normally what would happen is you'd actually reboot the box just to ensure that everything was clean. So what I'm actually going to do is go to a command line, command shell, and I'm just going to type VGC-monitor -D VGCA, and that's going to actually tell me that the card is installed, it's up and running, and it's in a max capacity mode here as well. It also is very, very useful to check things like the temperature, 42 degrees C, safe, which is good, and also the path and the revision here as well. And you can see here it's in an ATEX slot, Gen 1, so the card is ready to go. Next thing to do is to actually come onto here, and what's part of the upgrade process and the installation process is to ensure that the Flashmax 2 card has the correct level of firmware. So step 3, after number 1 doing the drivers, number 2 ensuring that the hardware is actually available and we've checked the card out, so step 3 is to update the driver firmware. And I'm just going to check this, and it's already telling me that this card is up to date, which is fantastic. So that's good. It's on the revision that it should be, so no need there. If this card was out of date, we could do an update, point it to the drivers directory, and that would update the firmware on the card. Next thing to do is go to this icon over here, the Flashmax 2 Manager icon. This icon allows us to clearly look at the card, and we can actually see this card here, and it's actually telling us green is good, it's ready, it's giving us a lot of information around the status, the health, exactly what we did on VGC Monitor. It's also talking about action required, and again all this can be done in real time. Let's actually install a file system onto that. So we're going to literally come down here and literally go to Disk Manager or Disk Management, and it's already picked this up and said, look, there's a new disk in the system. So we're going to run this, and again you could see master boot record or GPT. I'm going to use GPT in this situation, and that's actually going to create my disk here, and it says it's unallocated and it's online. And literally we're just going to do a new simple volume, go through the Windows wizard, fill the card out. We're going to mount it as drive letter. I always think something a bit different, so I'm actually going to use maybe S, and again I can put on here default a new name, so we'll just call this Flash. So away we go, hit next, and that's going to format up the card, and that card is now ready to go. So step 5 was format up the card. As you can see, pretty straightforward. And if I literally come away from here now and close this down, and I actually go to my file manager, you can see under drive S, the card is ready to go. Right, the next section we're going to do is utilize the flashmax 2 card that's in the server and ensure that Hyper-V now starts using that to actually, as a local drive, to actually install virtual machines. So really straightforward. I'm going to click up here. I've already installed Hyper-V on here as well, so I'm literally going to go to the Hyper-V manager. And what I'm actually going to do is basically create and click on this icon here. The key thing to do, I think, is go to Hyper-V settings. And under Hyper-V settings, it will tell you where the virtual hard disks are and the virtual machines are. So I'm going to change this to drive letter S and stick that in drive letter S, which is on my flash card. And I'm also going to stick this. This is the virtual machine area that the actual configurations are going to be stored. So that's going to be also on drive letter S. Apply. And literally we are now ready to go and start installing Hyper-V instances on the on the flash card itself. The key thing about this as well, if you actually have a look around here, is you can see that the virtual hard drives and everything actually can be seen from the file manager itself. So if I go to drive letter S now, you can see this. If I click on this, you can see that it's actually got programs and user data. So we're literally ready to go. So if I do File, Actions, New, Virtual Machine, and again I can call this one New, and it's telling me that it's going to stick it all in here, in the S drive. Hit Next, just to use the usual connections onto the network. I'm going to create a new drive, new disk, actually on that S drive, and I'll install the operating system later. Hit Next and then Finish. At this point we're ready to go. We could literally just place in there a ISO image. We could use a window deployment service image and boot off the network, and literally the drive and the disks are ready to go.